All right, guys, we're back in the shop. We are working on the YUGO again, and we're fixing a few things we didn't get quite right the first time around. So stay tuned. So if you guys watched the last video, I'm going to put that right up here, you guys will know that we are prepping to sell the YUGO, which means this engine, the original 1.1, has to go back into it. And before we can do that, there's a couple of little things that we've got to fix that we didn't get quite right when the engine was in the car. Let me show you. So in the process of getting rid of all the vacuum lines, getting rid of the smog pump that used to sit here, and the AC compressor, which used to sit down here, we had to relocate the alternator and find a belt that was going to fit. Well, if you look at the alignment of the belt, it kind of kicks off towards the front a little bit. That's because the bracket, the only mounting bracket that we had down below, put us in this position. So we've got to kind of fix this before we put it back, because this is what's going to cause a belt squeal and premature failure on this belt. So we've got to get the alternator off and figure out how we're going to mount this thing to make it line up with the other pulleys. Okay, we got the alternator off, and this plate here is one of the brackets that was made by YUGO, I assume, to be able to mount the AC compressor when the AC was added to this vehicle. It's not a factory option. It's set up so that it only mounts to the block one way with these three bolts right here. But these two big things here is what's causing it to be forward this way too much, and they're welded on. What I'm thinking is we take each of these holes here and we just slot them longer towards the front. That way we can take this plate, slide it back, and that way we have some adjustment on the plate to actually get our alternator lined up with the other belt, or with the other pulleys. So we're gonna get this thing off here. I got two bolts off already, and this one here is just kind of sitting there. And we'll take this out and we'll see if we can't get those holes slotted and make this bracket work. Should be pretty simple. But as you know, when it comes to things that I touch, not everything is simple. Oh my soul, this is so slow. We've been probably 20 minutes now just trying to open up this one hole. These holes started off at about 7/16 or so, and we're at about a 5/8 right now. I'd like to get it to closer to 3/4 if we could, but this small air compressor is just not cutting it. So I think what I'm gonna do is gonna take this over to the shop. We've got a bigger compressor over there that has a lot more air, and we'll see if we can get those opened up. So we'll be right back. So from 26 gallons to 80, this is gonna get the job done a lot quicker. And just like that, we've got all three holes reamed out. Now let's go put it back on the engine and see if this alternator fits. Any bit of fine tuning we can do over at my garage. All right, so we've got our bracket put in there. We've got it slid all the way back this way so that this moves the alternator a little bit so that we can actually get this thing mounted. So let's do that and see where our belt alignment comes into play. Which means all we gotta do is get this bolt lined up with that slotted, or with that hole in the slotted bracket. Can I do that? All right, so that bolt is in there. We'll bring this down to adjust the tension. But if you look right down, that looks pretty straight to me now. So I think what we're gonna do is we'll button this up. We'll take the alternator back off, tighten up those bolts on the block on that bracket. Then we can get our tension set and get this bracket put into place here for that. So we can call this job done. We'll be right back. Okay, now that we got the alternator aligned properly and everything's all fixed up there, we've got one more thing that we got to do, which is going to make it a lot easier to do it right here than it is while we're trying to get it done on the car. Let's take a look. So as you can see on this exhaust manifold, we've got one bolt here that's gone. We got one that's still here, but it's really not. We've got to get this thing out so that we can thread in another bolt when we get underneath the car, and that way we're not fighting with this. So we're going to soak that down, and we're probably going to have to get some heat on it and try and spin that out of there. So one of the neat tricks I learned from watching a guy on TikTok is that if you soak it down with some penetrating fluid and you peen it really good with the air hammer around the outside edge, as well as that, it'll loosen up the rust in the threads, and you can keep spraying it down as much as you want. But we're gonna put some heat to it, and all I've got out here in the shop right now is this propane. So we're gonna try and get that, and then we'll clamp our vice grips on the bottom here and give her a twist and see what happens. Worst case scenario, we get a nut, we weld it on there, and we take the nut off. So that ain't coming. We've tried heat and penetrating and heat and penetrating, and we've used the air gun on it a few more times, and it just doesn't want to come. And I got thinking about it. Because it has to thread out from the bottom, it's going to be difficult to weld a nut on there with this thing down so low. I still may try it, but I think what we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up just cutting it flush on the top here, and then drilling down through if we have to do that. I think that might be what we'll have to do. Worst case, again, is we take the actual manifold off. Those bolts don't look too bad, but you never know what you're going to run into when you start taking this stuff off. So I think I'm going to start spraying these down now, just in case. Well, after soaking down the first one, it spun right out. No biggie. But the other three, no such luck. They all broke off. So rather than having just one bolt to deal with, we've now got 4 altogether. And so there's your pipe. We'll be able to work with that over on the bench, no problem. But now, I've created a monster. I got 3 more broken bolts here that I've got to get out. Dang it. Oh, the fun. All right, you convinced me. We're going to weld this nut on here and hopefully be able to spin that out. I don't know what settings to put this on. I got it on low wire feed, and I got it on, I don't know, thick metal, number 3. We'll try it, see what happens. Woo! She good and red. Well, dang it, that didn't even stick to the thing. So we're gonna have to clean that up a little better, find another nut. Take 2. Nope. Looks like we're cutting and drilling, boys. I don't have the talent for that. All right, we got that cleaned up. And now what we'll do is we'll just we'll drill down through it, hopefully find center, and we'll have to tap the threads back out of her again. Well, it took a little bit of cutting, but we got her. So now we can take a 3/8 bolt and thread that up in there when the time comes to put the Put the exhaust back on. I'm gonna see if I can find one right now and try it just to be sure. But we should be okay. Yep, that should be fine. All right, so there's one down and 3 to go. So at this point, I'm thinking that stinking manifold's got to come off in order to get that done. And if I remember correctly, yeah, there's this bolt here, which I could take this cover off, and they're all rusty. We're going to be into some fun here. Probably created more of a problem just getting this thing put back in the car than we would have if we were going to put the Toyota motor in it. Anyway, I'm going to see what we can do with these. I got them soaking, and maybe we can get them out. Maybe we can't. I don't know, but I'm going to grab some lunch. I'm going to spray them down one more time. I'm going to grab some lunch. When I come back, we'll see if we can tackle those. Okay, so where we're at is we've got these 3 studs, or bolts. They're now studs. They used to be bolts going up into the exhaust manifold that hold that pipe into place. What we've got to be able to do is try and get those out. I'm not a great welder, as we've seen, but I think that's going to be our only bet shy of taking this off, which I don't want to do because we can run into more broken bolts, and try and get these things pulled out. We're going to try heating up the actual cast with the torch as well, and also adding the heat of the MIG Welder to it in hopes that we can spin those out with very little effort. But I'm being a little bit pessimistic. Nevertheless, let's get everything cleaned up and ready for some welding. So we got some heat on this first one, and we got the vice grips locked on. We took our air hammer and we pounded around it, and it's actually moving. So I think this one will be no problem getting it out the rest of the way. And then we got 2 more to work on. Fingers crossed, guys. And the first one is out, guys. It took a little bit, but we know how much thread's up in there anyway. 2 to go. Well, we are, what, 75% of the way there now? We've got 2 of those broken studs, bolts, out of the manifold, and one that just is not coming. We've tried welding. We've tried the vice grips, we've tried heat, we've tried cursing and swearing, we've tried having a beer. None of that worked, so what we're gonna do is the same thing we did to the actual exhaust pipe, is we are going to cut the stud off, and we're gonna drill it out and tap it. So I guess that's where we're at right now. Let's take a look. So I'm not sure if you can see it on camera. We've got 3 holes here. This is the original one that came out. We were able to work these 2 out, no problem. This one here, if you are familiar with what a stud actually looks like, is it's got threads and then it's got like a flat spot, and that flat spot's what you grab a hold of with the vice grips. This one here is threaded in a little further, and there's no spot to grab a hold of the vice grips. So all we're doing is we're pulling off what little bit of threads may have already been there and left over. So we've got to cut this off and punch it out with a drill and tap the hole again. So I guess that's where we're left. So here's where we are. Can't see nothing. But we got our hole drilled. It went all the way through, and we're just cutting some threads to get out all the crap that was in there. And hopefully be able to thread a bolt back up in there. And I think we'll be done for the day. Literally spent all day working on broken bolts. Oh. Let me finish tapping this out. I'll be right back with you. Well, that's how you can spend all day working on basically 4 bolts. And we got that alternator lined up the way it's supposed to be, but when everything's all said and done, that took us probably probably half an hour altogether from start to finish. And when we were done with that, we started on that exhaust bolt, and look, that was at 10:30 this morning, and it's now 20 after 3. Granted, we took about 45 minutes for lunch, but still, when you don't have all the proper tools, you're stuck just grinding away at it until you make it happen. So we did manage to get get some good use out of our tap and die set today, and you know, this is a tool kit that I bought a long time ago. Thought, oh, I bought this and I may never use it. Oh, look, I used it twice today on one project. So it's always good to have the right tools. If you guys are looking for a good tap and die set, I'm going to leave a link down in the description box below to my Amazon affiliate. All the tools that I'm using here today, I'll leave a link down there, because anytime that we do a project, you got to have tools. And if you guys are buying the same tools that I'm using through my Amazon affiliate, they give me a little bit of kickback, and you still get the same great price, so you're not paying any more for it. So please check out my affiliate store for all of this stuff. We're going to continue working on the YUGO. I'll be back here tomorrow. It'll be a new video. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to be doing. Oh, we've got to patch that hole on the inner fender on the frame. So we'll get that done, and then I think we're pretty much ready to start kind of working away at putting the engine back in the car. So that might be in the next video. Hope you guys can stay tuned. If you haven't given this video a like yet, please give it a thumbs up. And that tells YouTube that I'm doing an okay job, because you guys are giving me a thumbs up. And if you're not yet subscribed, go down and hit that subscribe button down below. Again, we're this close to 25,000 subscribers, and when we get there, I'm doing a big giveaway. We'll be doing a live stream, giving away some prizes from a lot of the folks that have helped me out over the years. In the meantime, guys, stay focused on the windshield, not the rearview mirror. I love you. God bless. Thanks for sticking with us. We'll see you in the next video.